Hi there, happy Tuesday. Welcome to 2 for Tuesdays. I'm Mo McClanahan and I am the Director of Training and Education with the Safe Surfing Foundation. And this is our 2 for Tuesday show where we come here every first and third Tuesday to give you some tips on how to better safeguard your kids on the internet and social media. We here at Safe Surfing, our mission is to be educating you as the parents and really just giving you some tips and guidance on how to be navigating and raising kids in this crazy time of the advancement with technology. And especially as the rise of the pandemic, and I think we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. But with that rise of the pandemic, we were not only seeing our kids more and more connected online because, well, they were having to do virtual learning, but also we were seeing an increase of the online predators and them victimizing your children online. And so we wanted to try to, use whatever platform we had available to really just keep educating and reaching out as best as we can. And so that's where we came up with the 2 for Tuesday. A little background about me, if you've not been here before. I recently retired after 20 years in law enforcement and the last 8.5 years working internet crimes against children. I, worked many different cases involving proactive cases such as undercover chatting, and then reactive cases, which were the cyber tips coming from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And then also any type of local cases that our children were being victimized either by their peers or by adults online, and the parents were starting to report that as we continued to educate them, because most of the time, one, kids don't know what to look for that they are being victimized, and two, the parents weren't really sure what were the crimes and what were some of the signs to be looking for that their child may fall victim to being preyed upon online. And so, we continued. When I was an investigator, I made sure that education was in the forefront as much as I could. And then now, being here with Safe Surfing, I continue to spread education. And with the Safe Surfing Foundation, we are, really reaching kids nationwide. And so we're excited to continue this mission, and tonight to talk about something that I just recently learned about. And honestly, if I knew about this the first time it started in 2018 of the National Delete Snapchat Day, I would have been the number one supporter, the number one spreading this awareness. I'll be honest, I never really took that bold enough step to go beyond my own opinion within my own community of my own presentations. I just never made a really loud message on social media. So I'm excited to have joined with these other organizations that have educated me on today's day of the National Delete Snapchat Day. I was following, I believe, just another account on here that has to do with educating kids and really keeping kids safe. And so I'll make sure that I'm drawing a blank right now of those names because we're live, and that's what happens, right? That you draw some of those blanks. But I will make sure I get those names for you guys. So one of the things that I want to talk about as being an investigator working internet crimes against kids, I definitely saw the increase of dangers when it came to Snapchat. When it first came out and the whole mentality of the photo disappears is really something that is damaging, because you're setting up people, especially kids, to have the intention of doing something wrong, taking a picture of it, and that it being deleted, and there will be no repercussion from that. So no consequences from it. And so it was very almost like false advertising in their mind. It was the year 12. Snapchat just came out. It's around 2012, 2013. They just came out, and we actually had, in a neighboring community, we had kids sexting each other, so taking naked pictures of themselves and sending it to their peers, and they were doing it through Snapchat. So the kids were under the impression that, their picture was deleted unless somebody took a screenshot of it, and they would be notified that their picture had been screenshotted. And then they would start talking to the person they sent it to, being like, hey, you need to delete that. Please delete my picture. I know you took the screenshot. And so in their mind, they're thinking, okay, nobody took a screenshot. My photo's gone. So they ended up having this case, and it involved almost 60 cell phones within that county. And then one of the victims involved a young lady in my jurisdiction. And the same thing. She said she believed it was deleted. She was surprised that I was even at her doorstep. And she said, I don't understand. Like, it didn't notify me that things were screenshot. And so they have this false sense of security, honestly, when it comes to sending pictures on Snapchat. And what they don't realize is that photos can be saved with all of these different third-party apps. I was seeing folders on kids' devices that basically the app saved everything that was being sent and received through Snapchat on this kid's device in a file folder that never spoke to the users of Snapchat. So nobody would be notified if he was saving stuff every time. It was just a default that's what it did. And there's, thousands and thousands of apps being recreated every day. And so if one got, was starting to be detected, then another one would come out. And they would be doing the same thing by saving these images or, videos being sent through Snapchat. So then, I went to a conference, and Snapchat creators were there, or their law enforcement security team was there to present. I went to that presentation, and they basically said that they don't retain any of the data. So they don't retain conversations, they don't retain pictures or videos, and that they were monitoring the accounts and making sure that there wasn't any kind of victimization going on. And I rose my hand and I said, I've had about 10 kids being victimized on Snapchat, and you have not once called me. And that was, my sign of like, why are they even here? Like, what is their main use? And in my mind, I felt like Snapchat really doesn't add value to our lives compared to like Facebook and Instagram, because they're all the big names right now. But if you think about it, Facebook, they send you memories of pictures like, hey, do you remember this picture 2 years ago? Isn't it great to really kind of reminisce about that moment in time? Can you imagine if Snapchat did that? They said, hey, remember this photo that you thought was deleted? But guess what? Somebody saved it, and we thought you would love this memory of something of you doing something inappropriate, right? Nobody wants those kind of memories. So that's when I really was trying to share with parents and kids that it just isn't, a great app, to really rethink about it and continue to educate on the age requirements to have Snapchat. You have to be 13 to have social media. That's part of the terms of services. And there's a reason for that. Kids' brains are not developed to really fully understand consequences of their decisions of what they're posting, the comments that they're putting out there. And so if we want to protect them from being bullied or being victimized right back, then we need to keep them off. And so I think this day is an amazing way to show these apps that really don't add value and they're not protecting our kids as much as we'd like them to, that we're going to delete them. And so that's what I want to challenge you, to delete Snapchat and to share with others the importance of deleting it too. Now, some of the other cases that I've seen coming through Snapchat, not only was I seeing like the addiction compared to like the screen addiction, but also the addiction of being connected on Snapchat. I had young ladies that were either sharing naked images or having their phones confiscated because they received solicitation from adults, and them being concerned with their Snapchat streak that they would make sure that they had given their passwords to friends because they had no access to it. Even if their parents were taking the accounts away, they were still getting their friends to make sure that that streak was being continued. And that mindset that goes around it and that addiction to it was just something that I could see was troublesome or was not healthy for them. Later did I find that listening to some of these presentations at other conferences, I learned last year of a case, and I think it's in another 2 for Tuesday, but children were getting their Snapchat accounts confiscated, like somebody who tricked them into giving them their password, thinking that it was a friend of theirs. And so they'd give out the password. These 2 adult men would overtake their accounts, and then the kids would freak out that they couldn't get into their account. And then they would receive messages from these guys saying, hey, we'll give you access to your Snapchat, but you have to do something for us. And they were given the ultimatum to either 1, drink their own urine, or 2, if they had a younger sibling, they would have to sexually abuse that younger sibling. They were making monsters out of our kids because the kids would do it to get their Snapchat account. And then they would continue to traumatize these children by stating that they would expose them if they didn't continue to send them more pictures or videos that were sexual in nature. Granted, there were some girls, they said, you can have my account. And they stood up to them. But then, because it was a group of friends that these guys overtook, like they found a whole niche of friends, they said that they would expose their best friend if they didn't do one of the acts. And our kids were doing that. Now, would they have done that if they weren't already exposed to Snapchat or any social media? Now, I'm not saying get rid of everything, but I am saying on this particular day that you do consider deleting Snapchat. The whole platform is based around anonymity. You know, everybody thinks that they can be anonymous, that they can be whoever they want, and that they're hidden behind a username. And our kids are being targeted on this app because I'll tell you this, predators go where our children are. And we've allowed our children on this app, and that's where they're at. And they are addicted, and they don't want to come off. And so these predators are playing into that vulnerability. So we need to take back that control as parents and really consider deleting Snapchat. Now, this started by a child advocate, Colin Karchner, and he has since passed away. I've read about him this week because I just, again, learned about this campaign. And this is, you know, what speaks to me is that, you know, really just saving the kids, defending their happiness, as Thorne says. You know, really helping them have an amazing childhood. But they can't have that when they're being victimized online. And that trauma lives with them forever. They are suffering from depression, from anxiety, and PTSD, and eventually being cyberbullied based on their acts. If they are exposed, it's a mess. And so we need to start reeling it back in, taking back control, deleting Snapchat, and really just monitoring everything else that's on their devices. So those are my 2 tips. 1, delete Snapchat. 2, monitor what they're doing on the devices, because I know that's not realistic to start taking everything from them. We're not trying to punish them. We are trying to protect them. But if you haven't already given them a device, hold off. They don't need it. My child doesn't need it. He knows that he may get a device when he's driving, if he's mature enough, right? Setting that precedent now and not falling into the peer pressures of what everybody else has. You're here to keep your kids safe, and that's what's most important. And that's what I tell my son, that it's my job to keep him safe. I can only do so much for everybody else, but that's my job, and he knows that. So having these conversations is key as well. Now, if you're struggling with how to monitor some of these devices, I've always recommended, and is Bark. That's been in the background of my career of internet crimes against children. As I was presenting, they've always been sending me more information about their apps and always supporting any presentation I had out there. They have really stepped it up when it comes to what they can monitor and what they can send you in real time, so you can better really intercept any kind of victimization going on. And, really just do some research. Life 360 is another one. I know there's some new ones out there, so I'd have to do some more research on that, but those are some great ones to start with. And do your own research. Find what works for your family and what will work for the devices that you have. So that's my 2 for Tuesday today. Again, on this National Delete Snapchat Day. And as promised, the other organizations that I ran into on social media is Protect Young Eyes and Save the Kids. So they are really doing amazing things when it comes to education as well. And so really, we're in it together. It really does take a village. So that's what, I like to really encourage is share this with other people, share this with parents and friends, and let's get the word out and let's protect our babies. All right, guys, have an amazing night. Take care.